Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the environment where greatness is forged. Most people run from it, dodge it, numb it, or deny it. But the truth is, the life you desire, the version of you that you've only imagined, exists on the other side of discomfort. It doesn't dwell in the safety of your routine or the warmth of your excuses. It lives in the wild terrain where your will is tested and your faith is stretched. There's a reason champions look different. It's not because they were born with superior talent. It's because they trained themselves to sit in rooms most people run from. They leaned into hard conversations. They showed up when they were tired. They performed when they were overlooked, and they kept showing up until pain became their platform and discomfort became their default. Your problem isn't that you're incapable. It's that you're too comfortable. Comfort has convinced you that you're doing fine. It's given you just enough success to distract you from your calling, just enough provision to silence your potential. You've been tricked into believing that ease is a blessing when it might be your biggest barrier. If you study the life of anyone who's made a significant impact, you will find one thing in common. They endured discomfort. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. They forced themselves to do what was unnatural until it became automatic. They didn't wait for ideal circumstances. They created movement when nothing around them made sense. Discomfort is not a punishment. It is preparation. It prepares your mind to endure pressure. It prepares your spirit to walk by faith. It prepares your character to handle the weight of what you've been praying for. Some of you are asking for a level you haven't been processed for yet. And discomfort is the very tool God is using to develop the version of you that can carry the blessing without collapsing under it. Every time you step into a space where you don't feel qualified, you're training your mind to stretch. Every time you face a challenge that scares you, you're expanding your emotional and spiritual capacity. The problem isn't the pain, it's your perspective of the pain. You think discomfort means you're off track, but many times it's the greatest sign that you're right where you're supposed to be. People spend years praying for purpose and miss it because it came disguised as a burden. You didn't get overlooked because you're not good enough. You got overlooked because you needed to learn how to affirm yourself in silence. You don't lose the deal because you're a failure. You lost it because there's a version of you that must be developed before the next door can open. And that development only happens through discomfort. When you try to skip discomfort, you skip development. When you avoid hardship, you avoid harvest. You can't microwave mastery. You can't shortcut strength. Every painful experience has been planting seeds of wisdom, grit, and clarity that you cannot buy with money or talent. That kind of fruit only grows in the soil of struggle. What separates the extraordinary from the average is not talent, it's tolerance. Can you tolerate pressure? Can you function without applause? Can you remain faithful when nothing feels fair? Most people can't, and that's why they plateau. But if you can endure discomfort without shutting down, you will become unstoppable. Discomfort is the ultimate classroom. It teaches you who you really are when no one's watching. It reveals whether your vision is rooted in feeling or in faith. Because anyone can be focused when things are flowing. But can you remain disciplined when everything is dry, when everything is delayed, when everything is demanding more than you think you can give? We are addicted to comfort, and it's killing our calling. We want to feel good, look good, be understood. But greatness isn't about being understood. It's about understanding who you are even when no one else does. It's about showing up fully even when the room doesn't recognize your value. That kind of confidence is only born through pressure. There are levels of wisdom that only show up when your back is against the wall. There are insights that only emerge when you're under pressure. When you're forced to create, not because you want to, but because if you don't, you won't survive. That pressure is not punishment, it's permission. It's God saying, now you're ready to learn what can't be taught in comfort. Discomfort strips away the fluff. It silences the noise. It removes the luxury of laziness. You stop caring what people think. You stop waiting for approval. You stop wasting time explaining yourself to people who don't matter. Discomfort forces focus. It builds boldness. It teaches you to move with clarity because every moment matters when you're in the fire. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will come from the moments you hated the most, not because of how it felt, but because of what it formed in you. It formed resilience. It formed creativity. It forced you to dig deep, to get honest, to stop pretending, and finally confront the real you, the you that God designed, not the one comfort created. If you always do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you learn to do what's hard, your life will eventually become easy. Because you'll have the muscle, the mindset, and the momentum that only discomfort can give you. The hard thing becomes the healing thing. The painful path becomes the powerful one. And then here's what they don't tell you. The more you embrace discomfort, the less power it has over you. Eventually, what used to intimidate you begins to ignite you. What used to paralyze you begins to propel you. Because discomfort didn't just stretch you, it shifted you. There is no elevation without agitation, no promotion without pressure, no overflow without obedience. You cannot have breakthrough while living in the boundaries of your comfort zone. That's not how growth works. That's not how purpose is revealed. That's not how greatness is birthed. If you want the crown, carry the cross. If you want the reward, endure the resistance. If you want to rise, then embrace the weight that most people run from. Because discomfort is not just the price of progress. It is the pathway to your divine destiny. Mastery doesn't begin with feeling ready. It begins with deciding to move forward, even when every part of you wants to stay still. Most people never master anything because they are waiting for a magical moment called motivation. But motivation is a liar. It shows up late, it leaves early, and it only sticks around when things are easy. Mastery, on the other hand, is built on something far stronger. Obedience. Obedience is not emotional, it's intentional. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't need a good day or a sunny morning or perfect circumstances. Obedience says, this is the standard, this is what I've been assigned, and I will show up regardless. That's the foundation of mastery. Not hype, not adrenaline, but relentless, consistent obedience. The world teaches us to chase feelings. Do what you love, follow your heart, wait until it feels right. But feelings are unstable, they are fickle, they can be manipulated, distracted, discouraged. That's why so many people start strong and finish weak. They had excitement, but they lacked obedience. And without obedience, nothing meaningful can be built or sustained. Obedience is what you do when no one is watching. It's the early morning routine you keep when the applause has stopped. It's the work you put in after the inspiration fades. It's the grind in the shadows that nobody claps for, but that God honors. If you want mastery, you must make peace with monotony. You must fall in love with doing the same thing every day until it produces results. There's nothing glamorous about doing the reps when you don't feel like it. There's nothing thrilling about waking up when your body is screaming for more sleep. But it is in these ordinary moments of obedience that extraordinary results are born. That's where mastery lives, in the repetition, in the sacrifice, in the decision to stay disciplined when motivation is nowhere to be found. Mastery doesn't reward the talented, it rewards the trained. And training requires submission. You have to submit your emotions to your standards. You have to submit your impulses to your principles. You have to stop treating your feelings like facts and start treating obedience like oxygen. Because once obedience becomes your default, mastery becomes your destiny. Motivation is seasonal, obedience is eternal. It's not sexy, it's not loud, but it's powerful. You can build a legacy on obedience. You can outlast opposition with obedience. You can rise above chaos through obedience, because obedience isn't reactive, it's proactive. It moves on schedule. It builds regardless of weather. It doesn't check how it feels before it moves. When you lead with motivation, you need external energy to get started. But when you lead with obedience, you become your own power source. You start to trust yourself. You develop integrity. You say, I'll do it because I said I would. Not because I feel like it, not because it's easy, but because I'm committed to the call. Mastery requires maturity, and maturity is measured by obedience. Can you obey your own commitments? Can you follow through on your own goals without supervision? Can you show up when it's silent, when it's slow, when it's inconvenient? Most people can't, and that's why they never elevate, because they waited for motivation and forgot that obedience was always the door. Obedience teaches you self-governance. It develops inner authority. It reminds you that discipline is stronger than desire. When you obey, you build a framework that supports your future. Every act of obedience adds another brick to your foundation. And the stronger your foundation, the higher you can rise. God doesn't reward emotion. He rewards obedience. When he told Noah to build the ark, it wasn't because it felt good. When he told Abraham to leave everything familiar, it wasn't because it was comfortable. The miracles, the breakthroughs, the blessings, they came after obedience, not before. And the same principle applies to you. Mastery is unlocked through consistent, obedient action. You can't wait until you're in the mood. You can't wait for the stars to align. You must act like the master before the mastery shows up. You must behave like the expert before the results validate you. That's obedience. That's faith in motion. That's the discipline that builds empires, while others are still waiting to feel inspired. Obedience will take you where motivation never could. It will drag you through the fire, walk you through the valley, carry you through the drought. It will keep you building when others quit. It will keep you focused when others get distracted. It will keep you grounded when the world around you is shaking. Obedience is your anchor. Mastery is not an accident. It is the result of daily decisions repeated consistently long after the emotion has faded. It's showing up to write when no one is reading. It's practicing the pitch when no one is buying. It's preparing the message when no one is listening. It's living faithful in obscurity until excellence becomes second nature. The more you obey, the stronger you get. Your mental muscles grow. Your spiritual backbone strengthens. You no longer rely on hype, you rely on habits. You no longer chase validation, you walk in conviction. That's when you start to separate. That's when people notice something different, because you're no longer moving from the outside in, you're moving from the inside out. Eventually, what began as obedience becomes instinct. What started as struggle becomes second nature. Because obedience doesn't just build outcomes, it builds identity. You stop saying, I want to be disciplined, and you start saying, I am disciplined. That shift, that transformation is the beginning of mastery. You want mastery? Start with the one thing you've been avoiding, the one habit you've been delaying, the one commitment you keep breaking. Obey in that area, not once, not twice, but every day. Let obedience do its work. Let it shape you, strengthen you, stretch you, because the moment obedience becomes your lifestyle, mastery is no longer a dream. It becomes your new normal. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's not a spiritual gift. It's not a trait reserved for the elite or the chosen few. Discipline is a decision, one that must be made over and over again, often in the absence of motivation, applause, or recognition. It's a choice that stands between who you are and who you're called to become. Most people are waiting for discipline to arrive like a delivery. They think one day they'll wake up inspired and magically feel like doing all the hard things they've been avoiding. But discipline doesn't come to you. It must be summoned. It must be demanded. It must be declared. in the face of everything that tells you to quit, rest, or take the easy way out. Every time you choose discipline, you are telling your future that you are serious. You are telling your distractions that they no longer have dominion. You are telling your emotions that they don't get to drive. Discipline is not about feelings. It's about focus. It's about doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has disappeared. You don't become disciplined by watching other people succeed. You don't become disciplined by praying for strength, but refusing to take responsibility. You become disciplined by doing the work repeatedly, regardless of how you feel. Discipline grows stronger with every act of obedience, with every yes to the hard thing and every no to the shortcut. Discipline is not glamorous. It rarely feels good in the moment, but it produces fruit that nothing else can. It creates a foundation that motivation can't replicate. It generates results that hustle alone can't deliver. When you choose discipline, you're choosing to build something that lasts. You're choosing mastery over mediocrity, growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure. The biggest lie we've been sold is that some people are just more disciplined than others. The truth is, some people have simply decided more often. They've chosen discipline more frequently, more intentionally, and with more conviction than those who haven't. And every time they chose, their discipline muscle got stronger, while others stayed weak, waiting for the right time. There is no right time to become disciplined. There is only now. Every day you wait, you reinforce your excuses. Every time you delay, you deepen your dysfunction. Discipline isn't waiting for clarity. It creates clarity. It forces you to confront your bad habits, your broken thinking, and your emotional immaturity. And it molds you into someone capable of carrying the weight of success. Success doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to systems. Discipline is your system. It keeps you moving when inspiration runs dry. It keeps you focused when the world is distracting. It keeps you grounded when your emotions are unstable. Without discipline, you may get results temporarily, but they won't last, because what you gain through talent, you can lose through inconsistency. There's a difference between wanting something and being willing to pay the price for it. Discipline is the price. You say you want to be fit, but are you willing to wake up early, eat right, train consistently? You say you want to build a business, but are you willing to grind without results, face rejection, and stay committed through the chaos? That's the dividing line. Decision. Discipline is not a mood. It's a mindset. It's a mental agreement that you will do what is necessary whether you feel like it or not. That agreement becomes the standard by which you operate, and once your standard is set, you don't lower it to meet your comfort. You raise your actions to meet your commitment. Most people live on the level of their emotions. They act according to how they feel. But disciplined people live on the level of their decisions. They act according to what they've chosen. And because of that, they rise. They rise above drama, above inconsistency, above distraction. They become unshakable, not because they never feel weak, but because they've learned to act despite the weakness. Discipline doesn't ask for your permission. It demands your participation. It knocks on your door every morning and asks one question: will you choose to honor your calling today, or will you bow to comfort once again? That one question defines everything. It defines your health, your wealth, your relationships, your spiritual life, because all success is built on the foundation of daily discipline. You don't get to choose your future, but you do get to choose your habits, and your habits decide your future for you. That's the power of discipline. It turns intentions into impact. It turns dreams into deliverables. It turns average people into leaders, warriors, and visionaries, not because they're better, but because they've decided differently. You're not waiting for discipline, you're avoiding the decision. Because deciding means sacrifice, it means structure, it means dying to convenience, comfort, and laziness. It means giving up the lie that success will find you without you showing up for it every single day. And that's what makes discipline hard, but that's also what makes it holy. There's a reason discipline feels painful. It's pruning you. It's cutting off what no longer serves your purpose. It's removing distractions, bad habits, and toxic patterns. And it hurts, but it also heals. Because the more you choose discipline, the more you become the person you were created to be, not the person your excuses trained you to settle for. When you operate from discipline, you don't need hype. You don't need someone to push you, remind you, or convince you. You show up because it's who you are now. You do the work because the work works. And even when no one notices, you know every disciplined decision is building something eternal. Discipline is not magic. It's not luck. It's not divine favoritism. It is a moment-by-moment decision to act in alignment with your assignment, to choose growth over comfort, to build when it's boring, to obey when it's difficult, and to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. Avoidance is one of the most deceptive forms of self-sabotage. It doesn't scream like failure or shout like defeat. It whispers. It says, not now. You're not ready. Let's deal with it later. And every time you listen to that voice, you are feeding your fears and strengthening the very weaknesses that are holding you back. Avoidance doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. What you avoid doesn't disappear. It grows. It gains weight. It builds momentum. And eventually, what was once a small problem becomes a paralyzing limitation, not because it was too big to handle, but because you refused to confront it when it was still manageable. Every delay in action becomes a deposit into the account of weakness. Avoidance is subtle. It disguises itself as wisdom. You'll say you're waiting for clarity, or praying on it, or trying to get your mind right. But deep down, you know it's not strategy, it's fear dressed up as logic. You're avoiding the conversation, the confrontation, the commitment, not because you can't handle it, but because you've allowed fear to dictate your pace. You think avoiding discomfort is preserving your peace, but it's actually stealing your strength. Because every time you avoid the hard thing, you shrink. You become smaller than your calling. You reinforce the lie that you're not capable, that you're not ready, that you're not enough. And over time, those lies begin to shape your identity. Growth demands confrontation. If you don't face your weaknesses, they become fortified. The muscles you refuse to use become flabby. The gifts you refuse to develop begin to deteriorate. What you don't deal with will eventually deal with you on its own terms, and often at the worst possible time. Avoidance is the quiet architect of breakdown. You avoid the hard conversations and your relationships suffer. You avoid the financial reality and your debt compounds. You avoid taking the leap and your dream atrophies. Not because life is unfair, but because avoidance silently robbed you of your authority. It convinced you to hide when you were supposed to lead. Avoidance feels safe in the short term, but it's destructive in the long term. It creates a gap between who you are and who you were created to be. It seduces you with comfort, then traps you in cycles of regret, procrastination, and self-doubt. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to break free. You can't conquer what you won't confront. You can't grow beyond what you're unwilling to examine. Weakness isn't something you're born with, it's something you tolerate. It's something you feed with passivity, silence, and inaction. The cure isn't more time, it's more truth. It's the decision to step into the fire instead of walking away from the heat. Every time you choose to face the thing you fear, you weaken its power. And every time you avoid it, you make it stronger. Avoidance is like watering weeds. You think you're saving energy, but you're actually nourishing your enemy. The fear grows, the doubt grows, the shame grows, and eventually your life becomes a reflection of everything you refuse to deal with. Avoidance doesn't just keep you stuck, it trains you to be small. It tells your mind this is too big for you. It tells your heart you're not built for this. And eventually you believe it, not because it's true, but because you rehearsed it so many times that it became your narrative, and what you repeat becomes what you believe. Avoidance is a silent agreement with stagnation. You're signing a contract every time you say, I'll do it later. And that contract has a cost. Missed opportunities, diminished confidence, and delayed destiny. You cannot walk in fullness while still negotiating with fear. You must make the decision to stop running and start rising. Some people aren't stuck because they lack skill. They're stuck because they avoid pressure. They've never allowed themselves to be uncomfortable long enough to grow. They've sprinted away from the very situations that were meant to shape them. And in doing so, they've preserved their insecurities at the expense of their purpose. The strength you're praying for is waiting on the other side of the thing you keep avoiding. It's not hidden from you, it's hidden in the resistance. The only way to get stronger is to lean into the very thing that makes you want to run. You build courage by confronting fear, not by pretending it's not there. You say you're tired, but you're not tired from the work. You're tired from the weight of all the things you haven't done. Avoidance is exhausting. It keeps your mind racing, your heart anxious, and your spirit restless. Because deep down, you know there's more in you. You know you're called to more than this hesitation. The longer you avoid, the more comfortable you become in your dysfunction. And comfort, when misused, becomes a cage. You stop dreaming boldly. You stop acting courageously. You settle into routines that no longer serve you. And what was once a temporary delay becomes a permanent detour. Nothing changes until you decide that enough is enough. Not one more day of hiding, not one more excuse, not one more justification for why you're not taking action. You can't wait for fear to leave. You must move forward in spite of it. That's how real power is built. Not in avoidance, but in intentional engagement with what scares you. Avoidance teaches your brain that weakness is acceptable, that fear is too big to fight, that discomfort is something to escape instead of something to endure. And as long as you believe that, weakness will have the final word. But when you begin to confront what you once ran from, you just grow stronger. You reclaim your identity. Pain is one of life's most misunderstood instructors. We often treat it like an enemy, something to avoid at all costs, something that signals something has gone wrong. But pain, when viewed properly, is not a monster sent to torment us. It's a mentor sent to teach us. It carries lessons that comfort could never deliver. It reveals truths that success could never expose. It refines in a way that ease never could. The reason most people never grow past their limitations is because they mislabel their pain. They see hardship as punishment rather than preparation. They see discomfort as disruption rather than development. But the truth is, some of the most powerful shifts in life don't happen when things are easy. They happen when everything hurts and you still choose to show up anyway. Pain teaches you what comfort hides. It pulls back the curtain and forces you to see what's really inside you. When everything's going well, you can fake strength, you can pretend confidence, you can ride momentum, but when the pain shows up, the performance stops. And that's when the real training begins. That's when your character is exposed, your mindset is tested, and your resilience is built. Pain introduces you to yourself. It strips away the mask. It silences the noise. It creates a space where only the real you can survive. And in that space, you discover what you actually believe, how deeply you trust, and whether or not your foundation is solid. Pain is not trying to break you, it's trying to build something unshakable in you. Avoiding pain is avoiding power. Every time you back away from pain, you are backing away from a lesson, from a breakthrough, from a new level of growth. The people who rise in life are not the ones who have the least pain. They are the ones who learn how to endure it, interpret it, and be shaped by it. There are some truths about your potential that only pain can reveal. You won't find them in success. You won't find them in applause. You won't find them in comfort. You'll find them when you're tired, when you're stretched, when you're misunderstood, when you're rejected, when you're in the fire. That's where the gold is formed. That's where the strength is forged. Pain isn't there to destroy you. It's there to deepen you. It pushes you to dig into your core and pull out something you didn't even know was inside you. That's how leaders are made. That's how visionaries are sharpened. That's how purpose is clarified. Through pain, your vision becomes more focused, your voice becomes more powerful, and your spirit becomes more rooted. You can run from pain, or you can sit at its feet and let it teach you. You can try to numb it, ignore it, medicate it, or you can lean into it and extract wisdom. Because buried inside every painful moment is a seed of insight. Something that can elevate your thinking, transform your choices, and set you on a path you never would have found in ease. Pain stretches your capacity. It expands your threshold. It trains your nervous system, your emotional endurance, your spiritual patience. It teaches you how to hold weight, how to maintain perspective, how to function under pressure. And the people who avoid this process remain weak, easily shaken, emotionally immature, and unprepared for the demands of destiny. Some of the best decisions you will ever make will come after seasons of pain, because pain clarifies what matters. It burns away distractions. It exposes the fake and forces you to lean into the real. It teaches you not to waste time, not to settle, not to play small. You come out of pain with a sharper edge, a clearer focus, and a deeper understanding of what you're truly capable of. If you only accept joy, you miss out on the full power of transformation. Real growth requires friction. Real transformation demands heat. And pain provides that. It pressures you, not to destroy you, but to shape you. The same way a diamond is formed under pressure, the same way muscles grow under resistance, your purpose matures under the weight of pain. There are levels of wisdom that only pain can unlock. There are depths of empathy, compassion, and spiritual insight that only suffering can produce. You can't counsel the broken if you've never been broken. You can't guide people through darkness if you've never walked through it yourself. Pain qualifies you to lead, to serve, to speak with authority that can't be faked. Pain reveals your priorities. It shows you what's real and what's just noise. It makes you confront where your faith really lies. Do you trust your gift, or do you trust your God? Do you rely on convenience, or are you anchored in conviction? Pain will shake everything that can be shaken, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Pain has the power to purify your motives, to strip away the need for approval, to burn off the ego, to silence the addiction to validation. Because when you've suffered deeply and still choose to rise, you no longer care about applause, you care about purpose. You stop living to be seen and start living to be sent. You may not have chosen your pain, but you can choose your perspective. You can choose to see it as preparation. You can choose to see it as process. You can choose to see it as the hand of God shaping something greater in you. You can choose to believe that your pain is not the end of your story. It's the training ground for the next chapter. Pain doesn't mean something is wrong. It often means something is being made right. It means something is shifting, something is being birthed, something is being stretched. Growth hurts. Healing hurts. Becoming whole hurts. But in that hurt is the power to emerge stronger, wiser, and more aligned with who you were created to be. The pain you carry today may very well be the answer to someone else's prayer tomorrow. Because the wisdom, the insight, the experience, and the endurance you gain through that struggle becomes a light for someone else. Your story of pain becomes someone else's survival guide. Your breakthrough becomes someone else's blueprint. That's how pain multiplies purpose. Pain never leaves you the same. You either grow bitter or better. You either close off or open up. You either hide or you heal. But if you lean into the process, if you trust the teaching of pain, if you allow yourself to be mentored by your suffering, you will emerge refined, recalibrated, and realigned with your highest assignment. Legacy doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't fall into your lap because you had a good heart or a few inspiring ideas. Legacy is built by forceful faith, faith that refuses to bow, refuses to shrink, and refuses to wait for permission. It is faith that sees what doesn't exist yet and moves toward it as if it's already real. If you want to leave something behind that outlives you, you're going to have to believe with a kind of audacity that most people simply won't understand. Forceful faith doesn't ask if it's convenient. It doesn't require ideal conditions. It doesn't need consensus. It moves even when the environment is hostile. It speaks even when the room is silent. It builds even when the materials aren't visible yet. This kind of faith is disruptive. It doesn't settle for someday. It demands right now. It stretches you beyond what makes sense and compels you to act when everything in the natural says, wait. Legacy isn't built in comfort. It's born in conflict. The people who leave legacy aren't those who had it easy. They're those who had every reason to quit, every excuse to shrink, every obstacle to justify stopping, but chose to keep going anyway. They had forceful faith, the kind that breaks barriers, defies odds, and makes history. They didn't just believe quietly. They believed loudly, consistently, and unapologetically. There's a difference between belief and faith. Belief can sit in your mind and never leave your mouth. Faith takes belief and puts it into motion. And forceful faith is not content to be internal. It demands action. It demands visibility. It demands alignment between what you say and what you do. If your actions don't match your declarations, you're not walking in faith, you're walking in fantasy. The world doesn't need more talkers. It needs builders. And builders need faith that can fight. Because as you start constructing something that matters, something eternal, opposition will show up, distractions will multiply, doubts will try to make their home in your mind. That's where forceful faith becomes your weapon. It silences the noise, it focuses the vision, it commands the atmosphere. Every person who made a mark on this world did so with faith that contradicted their surroundings. They saw something that no one else could see. They believed when others mocked. They gave when it didn't make sense. They obeyed when it cost them everything. And that's why they left a legacy. Because legacy is not about popularity. It's about persistence. It's not about being liked. It's about being aligned. Forceful faith doesn't need the blueprint. It becomes the blueprint. It doesn't wait for the door to open. It builds its own door. It doesn't need confirmation from people who've never walked your path. It anchors itself in the truth that what's in you is greater than what's against you, that the vision in your spirit is more real than the circumstances around you. Some people will never understand the way you move because they're still waiting for validation. But legacy doesn't wait for a nod, it creates momentum. It chooses discipline over distraction. It chooses focus over popularity. It chooses obedience over opinions. Because legacy is not measured by how much you had. It's measured by how much you gave, how deeply you believed, and how relentlessly you moved. Forceful faith is disruptive because it challenges mediocrity. It exposes excuses. It refuses to participate in pity parties. It holds you accountable to the standard of your calling, not the comfort of your culture. It pushes you when you're tired. It corrects you when you're drifting. It reminds you that your life is not your own. It's a seed meant to produce fruit for generation. You can't have legacy without warfare because anything worth building will be resisted. Your mind will try to talk you out of it. Your environment will try to shrink it. People will try to redefine it. But forceful faith plants its feet and declares, I will not be moved. It stands in the storm. It worships in the wilderness. It builds in the valley. It believes even when there's no sign of breakthrough. The faith that builds legacy isn't passive. It's confrontational. It confronts laziness. It confronts fear. It confronts procrastination. It confronts every lie that says you're not ready, you're too late,